Hello, good afternoon, thank you for coming. I'm 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝗀, and I lead the AI product engineering organization at SAP. Together with Christoph Ruehle today, we're going to talk a little bit about how SAP and Microsoft are working together and sharing a lot about our business AI vision. To start with, I'll mention that Microsoft and SAP, we're at Ignite because we've worked together for a long time. And Christoph will go deeper with a lot more details, but I want to start with the fact that agents, which is a big topic today, right, in this conference and recently, how agents communicate with one another. That topic is something that we at Microsoft tackled initially a year and a half ago in the spring of 2024, where we kind of connected with them and said, we have an AI Copilot called Joule, and Microsoft has Microsoft Copilot. So we talked about how we could build bidirectional connectivity. And so the idea behind that is already in production now, and we were showing it at our booth as well. So today we made it happen, and on top of that, we're going further to talk about how we go with A to A and other new technologies as well. So let me first start by going over the stack. I'll go bottoms up and talk about the fact that at SAP, if you're not familiar with SAP, we have apps across all lines of businesses. And the value behind that is that we actually have the ability to have your business data in all areas too. And so above the apps is data. And we offer this business data cloud offering, which lets you bring your data from each line of business all together in one place so you can get insights across the board. We've also announced different connectors as well. Most recently at this conference, we talked about how we have BDC Connect, which is Business Data Cloud Connect, connects with Microsoft Fabric. So if you have data in Fabric, you can actually access it also in BDC with zero copy as well. On top of that is our foundation. And so you see Microsoft on the list, as well as all the other hyperscalers and many other partners. And the idea behind that is that we at SAP are agnostic to LLM. We have more than 40 large language models that we support in our system, in our generative AI hub. So if you are a developer in our business technology foundation platform, you can actually access any of them, and experimentally or in production. Above the AI foundation is basically where we have Joule and our agents. And that's just kind of the focus of our talk. The idea is Joule, which is our AI Copilot, can communicate with natural language to each of our lines of business. We also have the AI-assisted cloud transformation, which is basically using AI to help you accelerate your transformation to the cloud. On the right-hand side, you have custom AI on AI Foundation, which lets you write customizations as well through our business technology platform. And the idea, again, is that we have AI assistants on top of that, which Christoph will talk more about as well. And that idea is basically that you're a specific persona. And so we have a lot of agents. How do we help narrow down the personas that you want to access? And the AI assistants is a way of doing that. So we'll talk about AI assistants as well, on top of the Joule agents and how we can build on top of all of that. And so Joule itself, the idea is natural language to access your lines of businesses. And I tell people it's like democratizing access. A lot of us who've used SAP for a long time know the different applications. But if you hire a new employee to your company that's using SAP, they need to spend time to learn more about how to use something. With Joule, you can use natural language to get started very quickly. Here's an example. You can say, show me my sales representatives by revenue, and Joule can give you the answer. How does it do that? Well, one thing that's interesting is a large language model can't do this by itself. Right? You need to actually have context or grounding. And so all the information that we use with Joule is grounded in your company's data. An important part of that is, obviously, it's enterprise grade, so it's not being leaked or shared by anyone else. But within your context, you can use Joule to access all your business data. I mentioned earlier about agents. And so our vision of agents is threefold. We start with empowering businesses with pre-built agents, basically out-of-the-box access. We've got 25 agents you can use now across our lines of businesses, and by the end of the calendar year, you'll have 40 total. In the middle, our second mission is basically democratizing agent development. And the idea is that we have agents we think you'll use a lot, but every company is different, and you may have customizations. So we offer ways for you to customize through Joule Studio. And finally, we want to connect you to many different agent systems. Right? We're actually not trying to force you only into SAP. Some people may use Microsoft or other agentic systems. And mission 3 is talking about how we can make that connectivity work seamlessly. So the first one I mentioned already, 25 agents in production. These are just some examples. And there's a lot of things that are interesting here that help accelerate your workforce. So basically, if you are someone in accounts receivable, this agent can help proactively figure out what's happening, process, and save you a lot of time. Dispute resolution is one that a lot of people like because you can set rules and policies. And with a system-triggered agent, where basically, if a dispute comes in through email, you're notified along with a recommendation what to do. And that saves you a lot of time because right now you're here listening to a presentation, and you get back on your email, you have all these disputes that may come in your email. You like to have a summary and be able to just act quickly on it. And that's kind of the way we actually want to use Joule, help you get your activities done much more quickly. On extensibility, as I mentioned, we have a thing called Joule Studio that lets you build on top. And so there's a continuum of activities from kind of a simple side from the far left all the way to flexible on the far right. And from the far left is basically you can configure Joule agents. And the configurability is something that can be, you take the out-of-the-box agents and you make some configurations. You move a little bit further into Joule Studio, you can customize. You can create field extensibility, add new fields, make some changes to the agents. Go further, you might have your own agent you want to build from scratch, and you want to use our systems. The Joule Studio and our business technology platform enables that as well. And finally, on the far right, you can actually use Joule Studio to also invoke agents through other skills as well. And so basically, you can actually go from simple to complex depending on your needs. Finally, I mentioned this idea of extending across the broader ecosystem. And so how do we do that? The first thing to do, which the industry had, was to have a unified standard. And a unified standard is MCP. Most of you know what Model Context Protocol is, but it's basically a protocol that standardizes how you can communicate. It's easy to wrap APIs with MCP servers, and that makes data accessible across different systems. On top of that is agent as a tool. So agents can also operate to answer questions, but it can also be smart and say, this is not in my purview, and I want to hand it off to something else. And this is basically now agent is a tool that can actually dynamically select and pick other agents that can help out as well. And then this all leads to the very final part, which is agent to agent. This is the idea that we're SAP been engaged with the agent to agent protocol, and we've been working with Microsoft as well. We have agents, Microsoft has agents. How do they communicate with one another without requiring you as a developer or a customer to move all the agents into one place? And this is what we have at the end. And this idea is right here showing that, on the left-hand side, you see SAP's agents. We have agents across different lines of businesses. On the right-hand side, we have agents which are external to SAP. And so if you think about this, the bottom loop going from your agent's 8A server to our 8A client is something we have by the end of this year. By the end of 2025, we're going to be able to take Joule and with your permission, your preference, access agents you have outside our ecosystem. Going into next year, we actually want to go the other way as well. You can access and use Joule to orchestrate, or just use Joule, our agents, if you already know what they want, standalone, through our agent gateway. Our agent gateway is basically a catalog of agents that we have. Let's say you want to book a trip and use our Concur agent. You don't need us to orchestrate any further. Through our agent gateway, you can actually register and get the Concur agent through Joule and then access that directly. So we want to make sure this works both directions. I'll just quickly summarize a lot of different things we have, a lot of interesting things. I'll start from the bottom left and go clockwise. We started with a prompt optimization service we released in collaboration with 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗸𝗏. This prompt optimizer service in this AI foundation, which is, I mentioned at the beginning, we support more than 40 large language models. What's interesting is that each language model is different. I tell people that each language model is like each of you. All of you are different, and when I speak to you, each of you like to be spoken to differently. The large language models are not different. You actually train a model. The public data is similar, but there's some tuning that's different for each one, right? And so how you speak to one model isn't the same as another. And if you're used to using one model and you keep speaking to it and tune it, when you take that same prompt to another model, you won't get the same response. And so it's important to optimize the prompts to do an apples-to-apples comparison. So you're using language model A, you want to switch to B, and you use the same prompt, it won't be the same response, right? You won't get the same response. So you use prompt optimizer to get us on the same page. And the goal, as you will preview next year, is basically we can also help automatic routing as well. So prompt optimizer first gives you apples-to-apples communication to different large language models, and then we can do communication preference, ROI analyses on different LLMs. Above that is AI assistance. I mentioned that already, that as agents proliferate, you're going to have a lot of assistants to deal with, right? And how do you figure out which agents you need to contact? And so we actually have this idea of persona-based assistance. You figure out what area you're in, and we scope down the information for you. That way you get more detailed, dedicated results. Above that is basically the interoperability I mentioned already, and MCP server support. We have that coming. Above that is 2,100 skills in Joule. So basically you can access over 2,100 different APIs and services and tools. Moving to the right of that is the ABAP AI. So ABAP is our domain-specific language, and we have a fine-tuned model that was accessible previously in the Eclipse IDE. We're making it open, making it available in our generative AI hub, and on top of that, you can actually access it as a tool inside of, let's say, your VS Code, and that's actually allows you to actually use GitHub Copilot and also add ABAP into that framework. So that way, you can do all your coding languages all in one place. The top right corner is basically agents we have ahead. I mentioned we have 25 we've shipped already. We have 15 more coming. International trade classification, bid analysis agent, change record management agents, just a few to mention. Beneath that is our first enterprise relational foundation model. I want to emphasize this. This is basically not a language model, but a tabular model. And the idea behind that is that with language, it actually predicts what's going to come next, right? If I say it's cloudy or it's raining today in San Francisco, right? So I'm going to go in the closet and grab a blank. The blank is either umbrella or jacket. Those are probably most likely 60% umbrella, 30% jacket or whatever, and the rest of it can be other things. But when you use language model, you don't think about probabilities. You just read a sentence and agree. If it says, it's raining, I'm going to go to the closet and grab a hamburger, you say, okay, Walter's a little bit crazy, right? But if it's like one of the two answers, you're like, okay, that's fine. You don't think about probabilities. But when you talk about transactions, ledgers, your supply chain, how much inventory to stock for a holiday season in North America, that becomes a numbers problem, right? If I say, I'm selling $40 million of retail equipment, a retail product in November, how much will I sell during the holiday season? Well, it's typically a 5x multiplier or whatever. That model can help you do that predictive analytics. And so we find that to be very interesting. It's also available in Playground, so you can try it right away with specific template examples. Try it out and see how that works, because it's an analogy to language models. So I'm sure most people understand what it is, but it actually solves numerical problems, which you care about in your business. In the middle, I mentioned the AI Agent Hub. It's been GA'd as well, and this is the idea that we actually have an enumeration of what agents are available in LeanIX. It makes it easier for you to know what you can access when you want to access it as well. Bottom right is the deep research capability in Joule. So everyone knows about deep research, I think, in the industry. It's come out. So instead of quick answers, if you please plan it at the place that's most economical. You know, the deep research would look at your team, figure out where your, I just book, find out where your team's at, go to Concur, find out how much flights cost and hotels cost, and recommend an itinerary and plan. So deep research is kind of going beyond quick answers. And finally, as I mentioned at the beginning, Joule and Microsoft 365, we have a Copilot engagement which is integrated. And that was something we started a year and a half ago. And so Christoph, who's the product manager of that Joule product, will talk us more about that. But that's going to be what we're going to talk about here, and then what we're going to do beyond that as well. Thank you, Christoph.
Thank you very much, Walter. Yeah, my name is Christoph Ruehle. I'm the product manager for Joule at SAP, and I would like to get a little bit deeper now in the next couple of slides on the collaboration we have between SAP and Microsoft. So looking back a little bit in the history, right, without focusing right now on the AI topic, we already started a collaboration in the early 90s between SAP and Microsoft, you know, with SAP R3 on Windows NT. And this progress along and then already started to drop into the AI topic and to the whole AI hype, which was triggered then essentially with the release of OpenAI's ChatGPT. But also, we already had the first engagements in 2023 with Microsoft, specifically on this AI topic, with the announcement at SAP Sapphire, in which we announced first joint collaborations in SAP applications with embedded AI capabilities directly based on Azure's OpenAI APIs and also Microsoft Teams integration. And then we had the release of Microsoft 365 Copilot, and then subsequently further the release of SAP Joule, as Walter also just explained. But then we focus on the collaboration between the bidirectional integration between Joule and Microsoft 365 Copilot with a big announcement at SAP Sapphire, our flagship conference in 2024. And this progress, we started this journey before the hype of agentic collaboration. So we needed to get together, right, and really speak about enterprise security, about agentic protocols. How are we bringing this together? And then all of a sudden, there was a big hype around agentic protocols. And this is what we are now jumping on, right, and try to evolve this collaboration even further between SAP and Microsoft. So right now, we are super proud to speak about the general availability of the full bidirectional integration between Joule and Microsoft 365 Copilot. And I'll get into the details on that. But then also, as Walter stated, collaborating even further with Microsoft on agent interoperability between Joule agents and Microsoft 365 agents. So focusing for a moment on the bidirectional integration between Joule and Microsoft 365 Copilot, the objective was, and the story began around January 2024. That was when the World Economic Forum took place. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, met Christian Kleis, CEO of SAP. There was a briefing afterwards. They talked about a bidirectional integration between Joule and Copilot. Email came down the chain and landed on my desk. I reached out to a couple of folks at Microsoft, And then we started the collaboration, as said, really needed to start from the beginning, right? How are we doing this? So objective was to really enable users to interact with Joule in Microsoft 365, but vice versa, also enable users to interact with Microsoft 365 Copilot directly via Joule. So we are meanwhile releasing this. So this is now generally available. And the second direction, the first interaction of Joule in Microsoft 365 Copilot, this is now generally available. The second Copilot directly in Joule will become available in the next 2 weeks. So quickly touching here on the details. So you are able as a user to, via Microsoft 365, to interact with Joule by simply mentioning it in your Copilot chat, in Microsoft Teams, but also in all other Microsoft 365 applications like PowerPoint, Excel, Word, etc., which have the Copilot chat experience available. You can also interact with Joule as an agent directly in Microsoft Teams. The great thing is you don't require really the Microsoft 365 Copilot license. Microsoft 365 base license is sufficient for this. And all existing Joule capability, depending how you provisioned and set up Joule in your SAP landscape, so you can set up Joule across SAP SuccessFactors, SAP S4HANA, etc. It doesn't really matter where a user is, and a user can ask via natural language questions upon these different SAP Cloud applications. So Joule essentially is becoming available in all SAP Cloud applications. And based on your setup, based on your custom skills and custom agents you have developed, all of this will become available then also via Microsoft 365. So we also want to ensure that there is a transparent user experience, so you as a user are always aware when there is a response coming from the other assistants in both ways. On the other side, leveraging Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat via Joule, you simply need to interact with Joule with the standard Joule web client and natural language interface, and simply ask your question. And Joule knows about existing Copilot capabilities, will identify such in its orchestration, reach out to Copilot, and then directly provide a response in the flow of work. Again, with citation, knowing, letting the user know that a response is coming from Microsoft 365 Copilot. And all existing Copilot chat capabilities are available directly via Joule. So we are also working with Microsoft to enhance these existing capabilities. So as soon as there are new capabilities directly in Copilot chat, these will then also subsequently become available via Joule. And here's a quick demo to also show you a little bit the user experience. So user right here is in Microsoft 365, Microsoft Teams, opens up Copilot, mentions directly Joule, and asks a question. So we can think of an extension of the UI of Joule directly in Copilot, and ask a question which is relevant for a specific SAP business application. For example, give me the current status for project data pulls. So SAP Joule pulls this information directly within Microsoft Teams, shows you directly via adaptive cards, via different UI components, very transparently different results. And now I want to follow up, ask a specific question based on a specific candidate for cost-saving reasons. And this is now a transactional capability, a read capability based in SAP SuccessFactors. Without needing to leave Microsoft 365, I can directly interact with this interaction and retrieve this information in my flow of work. I can see also that specific processes have been conducted. I can see the results. I can navigate into my SAP application directly from Microsoft Teams, and then open up Joule via the Joule Diamond, and then also ask a question, for example, which is relevant then for Copilot. Summarize my last Teams message from a dedicated colleague, right? So Joule recognizes in its orchestration that this is relevant for Copilot, reaches out to Copilot through identity propagation between Microsoft Entra and Cloud Identity Services on Business Technology Platform. Joule is aware of who the user is and which roles and permission the user has, and then directly, transparently shows the result. The same user experience can also happen directly within Microsoft Excel, as mentioned. So Copilot chat is also available in Microsoft 365 applications. So the user can simply mention Joule and ask a question, in this case, show me relevant purchase orders. Now this is, again, a transactional capability relevant for SAP S4HANA, retrieves information, shows this to me in my flow of work. And you can think of, this is now, the foundation of where this collaboration starts, but about, if you think of the opportunity to extract data, massage this in Excel, uploads this back into SAP, etc., these are the topics we are now further exploring jointly together with Microsoft as next steps. So you can get started today. If you are interested, this is obviously not a topic you as an end user set up, right, this integration. But so you require your IT admin team to do so. But you can simply download the SAP Joule app from the Microsoft Marketplace and then follow the documentation. We have very detailed documentation, which also explains the setup between Cloud Identity Services and Microsoft Entra. And then, again, from a licensing perspective, it's no bigger obstacles for you because you can use the Joule base version license as well as the Microsoft 365 license to get started. So here's the QR code. This leads you to the Discovery Center. Feel free to use this and explore more, get started. But then also touching on this agentic interoperability, which is now a super important topic for us currently of highest priority, but also a super interesting one because we want to bridge the agent ecosystem, not just between Microsoft and SAP, and Microsoft and SAP are acting here as frontrunners, but we have the goal to actually create an enterprise standard for agentic interoperability. And this is no easy task, right? We have the complexity of SAP landscape, structured data, enterprise security concepts, etc. But we are now getting started together with Microsoft to really enable also Microsoft agents, first-party agents, declarative agents, custom engine agents, code-based agents to become available directly in Joule and vice versa, the same Joule agents, custom agents, etc., to become available directly via Microsoft 365. And Copilot. And this is a topic we are tackling in 2026. We are super excited about this. But also I would like to touch on what's more to come on the Joule roadmap, right? So we have delivered already the first, as mentioned, pre-built Joule agents in the first half of 2025. We are meanwhile now planning to have 40 agents by end of the year, roughly. But also the Joule Studio Beta has been released. But there is so much more which is now coming in the second half of 2025. Still a couple of weeks to go, so still a couple of new things which will be released. So we are meanwhile at around roughly 2,100 Joule capabilities. So these are informational capabilities, navigational capabilities, but also transactional capabilities, create, read, update, delete of business objects. We now have the Joule and Microsoft 365 Copilot integration, as mentioned, but also introducing system-triggered agents. We do have Joule Studio allowing customers to build custom agents, not just custom skills. Custom skills is already released, but then also the Joule Agent Builder in Joule Studio is becoming available. And then also supporting advanced agent governance and via the agent registry in SAP LeanIX Agent Hub, and then the agent mining via Signavio in SAP. Disambiguation in Joule is a big topic. The more skills, the more capabilities, the more agents are available, the harder, of course, and more complex becomes the orchestration and the routing. So we want to introduce an architecture pattern, but also a user experience pattern, which lets Joule come back to a user and say, you are asking about a specific question, here are the options I have to follow up based on your questions, right? And then there is also the Joule preview landscape we just recently released. First half of 2026, we are introducing Joule assistants. So at some of these topics, I will touch in the next couple of minutes with more detail. The Joule Action Bar, Joule Deep Research, Agentic Orchestration, but then also Joule Pro-Code Extensibility, which goes beyond the low-code, no-code environment of SAP Build and Joule Studio, which we have released. And then also multi-system support, which lets customers not only have one SAP S/4HANA instance, but for example, multiple SAP S/4HANA instances. And Joule conducts the orchestration and identified with which application the user wants to interact with. Touching on a couple of these topics in a little bit more detail. Joule Deep Research was announced already at Sapphire, and we announced this as Business Answer Engine. And I just had a conversation earlier with a customer who told me he's so glad we are now following the naming patterns everyone in the market is using, like Joule Deep Research. So I guess we have had a success with that. But also web search we want to integrate as a standard. So on the Joule Deep Research path, we want really to pair your enterprise data with AI deep research capabilities. So we are partnering here very strongly with Perplexity together and their deep research capabilities, and then really combine internal data, web research, with cited trustworthy results, also in an enterprise fashion to ensure the citations, the transparency is given. And this uses a fairly complex architecture in itself based on knowledge graph, MCP, leveraging document grounding capabilities we have in SAP Joule, but also then Perplexity is stated for the deep research capabilities. But in parallel, we are also introducing web search capabilities directly in Joule. So you as a user could use Joule not only grounded in your SAP data, but also paired up with web search results, also giving, of course, transparent user experience where our response is coming from, which I believe is a very important topic. But we are also introducing file upload and basic large language model interaction, which then also can be taken further for direct integration and interaction with SAP applications, uploading files, retrieving files, again, then also in collaboration with Microsoft, massaging them in the dedicated apps and bringing them back into the SAP landscape. So here's a quick example of the deep research. So in first half of 2026, we are introducing a toggle in Joule. With the deep research capability, a user can toggle between these two modes. And deep research, by nature, takes a little bit of more computing power, right? Takes a couple of minutes. So therefore, we are separating this. Hopefully in the future, with more computing power, we can bring everything into one holistic user experience. But you can ask them very, very complex questions, which pair up web search capabilities together then also with your enterprise data, and let then Joule conduct this web research and come up also with citation and sources very transparently. In this case now, 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏. You can have the same Joule user experience, can make this full screen. So this is coming in H1 of 2026. But then we also have acquired in 2024 a company, a digital adoption company called 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗏𝗏𝗏. So we are now integrating Joule also together with 𝗦𝗽𝗏𝗏𝗏. And the result of that is the Joule Action Bar is a dedicated capability and a premium license. We are now currently launching the early adopter care program for this and want to release the Joule Action Bar in Q1 of 2026. And the idea here is that this introduces essentially two big topics. So one, Joule as a service, as provisioned in your SAP landscape, is not only becoming available in your SAP applications, but also essentially on any other website, web application in the world. So you as a customer, from an administration standpoint, can decide on which application websites the Joule web client can become available for your user base. And your user can then interact with Joule directly as they would directly in the SAP application. But also, Joule becomes context aware with the Joule Action Bar. So 𝗦𝗽𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 has a patented deep UI technology, which enables also UI context awareness. So the Joule action bar comes with a tool set of capabilities, so you can get summarization of websites, you can interact with a website, but you can also set up automations. The great thing is, depending on a specific UI context, Joule then can also pop up and say, based on this context, I do have information in the SAP backend, which is relevant. So you can think of, from an IT administration standpoint, where do I want to position this for my user base? Where does it make sense? For example, then in this case, this example is in ServiceNow, but you can also think of Gmail, of any other application which is relevant for your enterprise. A topic which has been introduced at SAP Connect 2 months ago was the concept of AI assistants in Joule. So with AI assistants, we are thinking of kind of like a parent funnel for Joule capabilities, for Joule agents, for skills, for tools. But not only that, we want to give this more context based on specific business processes and applications. So you can think of a finance assistance, and we hear feedback also from customers. Joule is great, has many, many applications, but Joule is also a little bit of a black box for me. I don't know what it can do, what it cannot do. With assistants, you can simply mention a dedicated assistant. We build pre-built assistants based on finance assistants, procurement assistants, etc. Our SAP applications feed these assistants with dedicated capabilities and skills, which then also can be consumed via the central orchestration of Joule itself. But within one assistant for finance, you simply have these finance skills and capabilities. So here you can see the available Joule agents underneath these assistants, which we are planning to deliver by end of the year. It's roughly around 40. But there is so many more agents which are coming in 2026. So leaving this quickly, so I see a couple of pictures being taken. But there is also the topic of agentic orchestration. And this takes iterative steps. That's a big research topic for SAP right now. So what we have introduced so far is, you're aware of individual Joule skills, as mentioned, informational skills, but also read, update, delete, create capabilities. So what you can do as of today, you can ask Joule more complex questions, like show me purchase order, such and such, and the relating purchase requisition. So we've built in a reasoning loop within the Joule orchestration itself, which can pair up this dependency and pair up individual Joule skills and capabilities. This now, taking this a step forward, then also with Joule agents. Joule agents by itself, in its nature, have these reasoning and tool leveraging capabilities. So you can ask fairly complex questions, but only within one agent, right? So the dedicated agent has these capabilities. And of course, we are working also that an agent can collaborate with other agents. So you can ask questions like, which of our open purchase orders are at risk of breaching payment terms and why? So there is a dedicated sourcing agent, and this agent has now all of the tools underneath. Has purchase orders, has the supplier info, has the purchase order payment status, and all of this can be orchestrated within this dedicated agent. What we are now introducing in H1 2026 is something we call Agentic Orchestration. Independent of available Joule skills and Joule agents, Joule in itself has the native planning and reasoning capabilities. So you can ask very complex questions like, does purchase order comply with our purchasing policy for IT hardware? And if not, what's missing? So out of all of these individual capabilities Joule has, like existing skills, existing agents, existing information you as a customer has uploaded via document grounding, but also your custom-built agents and custom skills, Joule can start the reasoning, planning, and tool execution underneath, leverages all of these existing capabilities, and then comes back with a rich result. So this is a lot of research, and we are delivering in incremental steps. but the first scope in terms of scenario dependency, as we call it, is already available, and the next steps will become available then in the first half of 2026. With that, I'm done with my presentation, and thank you very much. Also, opening up for questions, please. There's a microphone in the middle.
I didn't mean to pee in the parade. So are you telling me Microsoft has Copilot, SAP has Joule, and you talk, if I ask on the Fabric side, show me the work order status and the life cycle of it. And Copilot cannot go into SAP unless they go talk to Joule, my assistant talk to your assistant, and then your assistant go talk to your agent, and then go find out all that stuff and circle back to the Copilot agent. Is that what it is? That Copilot cannot do directly into your Joule territory?
That's correct. So if I'm understanding your questions correctly, and maybe also elaborating a little bit more on that. So what we are doing right now, you can think of this bidirectional integration, first of all, as an extension of the respective user interfaces and the user experience, right? So what it's not yet can do, and what we are working on jointly, is to pair up this knowledge, pair up data sitting in SAP application with the Microsoft application. But you can ask any question you can ask Joule in the SAP landscape and get that same user experience directly in Microsoft, and vice versa, right? So based on this, there's a multitude of potential scenarios for business users in their daily life.
I'll just add that the point, I guess, is that it should be transparent to you as a user, right? I mean, if you're using Copilot, it doesn't matter if Copilot co-orchestrates with Joule, and vice versa. If you're in Joule, you ask a question that involves scheduling on your calendars that goes into Copilot, that should just happen seamlessly. So it doesn't matter what's happening under the hood. The point of our bidirectional integration is that we take care of that for the user.
Can Purview actually see the business categories, business glossary in SAP now, or do I have to still manually configure all that terminology of 𝗲𝗲, 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗍, 𝗦𝗽𝗲 stuff, so that the business can, they don't have to specify in Joule, say, look into 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗀 purchase order or something like that?
So we have a set of pre-built capabilities. So each SAP application has a responsibility to identify which use cases make most sense, prioritize this, and also deliver these individual transactional capabilities, right? But that's why we are also introducing all of these extensibility capabilities, right, with Joule Studio, with Pro-code extensibility, also field extensibility we are introducing, and we are currently evaluating how we are doing this, in the sense that many of our customers introducing custom fields, etc. So out of the box, Joule should be aware of that and then has access to this. So in many regards, it's also research problems, not so much capacity, but we are super confident that we are taking iterative steps to reach this objective.
So thank you for the presentation. We learned a lot in the last days about the intelligence layer on the Microsoft coming up to really make the agents, understand the organization. If we want to have agent to agent, so on the Microsoft side, it's understanding the organization. How will that work on the SAP side? Because also there the processes may be even more complex. What can we expect there?
I'd say the orchestration happens also on the Joule side. So Microsoft knows its system, right? People set up their Agent 365. On the Joule side, you also have the ability to look at the different lines of businesses and understand that you have a travel agent in Concur, you have maybe a human capital management agent in SuccessFactors, you might have a compensation specialist and an organizational specialist, whatever. So Joule understands the scope of each of the agents within the SAP set of agents. And so the idea is that when you're looking at communicating, the whole orchestration process should understand on both sides, like who's capable of doing what, and who needs to get involved. And that works on both sides, both on Joule side as well as Microsoft Copilot side.
Okay, so customers will clarify semantics on the Microsoft side, on the SAP side, and then it will work better together.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So just maybe to follow up on that, the Joule skills are contextually aware of like an S4 data model. So you don't have to develop your own ontology or anything like that to support.
So Joule, as of today, is available based on SAP Cloud applications. Okay. So we are following standardized business processes, right? So our pre-delivered Joule skills and capabilities are based on these standardized processes. We are also aware, however, of the customization and the extensibility work customers are doing in their landscape. So therefore, we are adding these extensibility layers and capabilities. Okay. But essentially, these pre-built skills and capabilities, there is no further configuration which needs to be done from a customer perspective.
And then, thank you. And then authentication honored, so only getting access to what you have access to in SAP?
That's correct. So Joule, prerequisite for Joule is the identity setup in cloud identity services on the business technology platform in SAP. And if you are now speaking, so that's on the SAP side, if you're now speaking on the bidirectional integration between Joule and Microsoft 365 Copilot, obviously on Microsoft side, it's Microsoft Entra, so you require to set up the identity propagation between Joule and Microsoft 365 Copilot. So therefore, Joule is always aware on SAP side of a user's roles and permissions, so a user can never do anything via Joule they couldn't do directly in the SAP application, vice versa. But also then on Microsoft 365 side, it's the same thing, and then the Joule Copilot direction integration is aware of your role and permission. Right. So we do have very detailed documentation, again, showing the QR link code, so feel free to follow up on that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bijection between the IAS from SAP side and the Entra ID, and that way one-to-one and on-to, so that way you don't have any false connectivity between users.
And if you as a customer is interested in this bidirectional integration setup, and specifically on the identity propagation side, we also have teams who can support you hands-on in this. So your account team at SAP side would then have the required knowledge to follow up.
Thank you for the presentation. One question, you mentioned SAP Analytics Cloud or the cloud offering. Does that require being on RISE, or can you still have this capability available through your private cloud?
Yeah, so Joule requires SAP Cloud application. So on SAP S4HANA side, that requires SAP S4HANA private cloud or public cloud. So Joule doesn't work on-premise. So technically, you can use the Joule web client and embed it in your SAP S4HANA on-premise application. This is not very well documented. You can then conduct a bunch of extensibility via Joule Studio or via ProCode extensibility and enable Joule to have a good user experience. But of course, this doesn't support the standardized, the custom scenarios many of our on-premise customers support. So therefore, it's marketed as Joule is available for SAP Cloud applications. So RISE is not necessarily a prerequisite, but the applications I've mentioned, including SAP SuccessFactors, Ariba, Concur, all major SAP Cloud applications. All right. Good. Any other questions? And?
Yes, so I appreciate the presentation that Christoph and Walter that you presented. It was great, like understanding a little bit more about the roadmap for Joule. And I wanted to understand if this presentation is available online for future reference, because I think this would be a great resource to bring back to our team just to better plan out our internal roadmap, because I actually work for SAP NS2, and we are a 𝗬𝗲𝗀𝗃𝗃 mitigated proxy for SAP. So our security requirements are a little bit more stringent than commercial SAP, but it's great to understand the commercial offerings and then see where that can fit in with NS2. So I was wondering if that was something that you can provide to us that we can better plan ahead into the near future.
Yeah, the recording should be online and on Ignite, and we can also make it available at, I think, SAP site too.
Yeah. So two things, right? This will be also becoming available virtually, but then also on SAP Discovery Center, we have a bunch of documents, content on Joule, etc. We'll also add subsequently these roadmap stories into the Discovery Center.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. I think we're at time.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we are out of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.